So chances are you've probably done the incline bench press and the incline fly. However, you may or may not be really great at attacking the upper pec fibers. So today I'm going to share with you some tips to help you not only improve the development of your upper pecs, but also save the shoulders in the process. Now, in our earlier video, I talked about my number one tip, which was fixing your pelvic positioning to minimize the arch in your lower back to help not only increase the stretch on the upper pecs, but also to take stress off the lower back and the shoulders. But in this video, we're going to also talk a couple more about slowing down the movement and also finding the right angle that best fits your shoulders. So my first tip for you is to fix your lower back arch and to minimize it so you can hit the upper pec. And again, I discussed this in an earlier video, so you can look at the link below. I'm not going to go super in detail because I did a full 10-minute video on that earlier about why it's helpful. Now, when doing this is both going to come down for both your incline fly and your incline press. A lot of times what people do is they set up their lower back, they have a nice big arch there, but what happens is they not only add stress to the lower back, but they actually shorten the range of motion. The bigger the arch, the more you turn it into almost a flat bench. So what we want to think about doing here is no matter what incline you're at, is you want to think about pulling the pelvis underneath you. I also like having a box or something up there so I can plant my feet. I should feel my lower back flatten out, feel my upper mid back on the bench, and I want to come down nice and slow, making sure at the bottom I'm not losing that positioning. So ribs are down, pelvis underneath. That's going to help you not only get that big loaded stretch in the upper pec, but also make sure that you're exposing those upper pec fibers, because if you don't, I'm really just turning this into me laying on an incline bench, but changing my spinal position to make it more of a flat. So you might just be hitting more of the middle to upper fibers like you would in a normal bench press, rather than really focusing on the upper pecs. So my next tip here is all about finding the right incline for your shoulder structure. Now, a lot of times people will just pull the bench up without really thinking, and they'll just set it where they want and go. Now, that's not an issue if you hit it right the first time, but sometimes your incline may be too high or too low, depending on what feels best on your shoulders. So what I like to do to start is, again, as I would set myself up on the lowest incline, right? As you are going from a flat to an incline, you're kind of working flat bench press through here, a little higher incline on the bench through here. As you start to raise it until you come all the way up to 90 degrees where you're hitting all that front delt and shoulders. So we want to play within that range. Now, one of the main ways to understand if you are too high on your incline is you'll start to feel this press, making sure you're fixing your lower back. But if you have a good lower back positioning and you're starting to feel the press in the shoulders or in the biceps, then you're probably too high up on your incline. So just drop it back down a little bit, and that will help you really find what incline works best for you. Personally, I like doing a low incline. So if this was 90 degrees, 45, this is probably 15 to 30. I also like taking it up to a 45 degree. Any higher than that, and this is probably about the highest I go, I do start to feel it in my front delt and shoulders, as well as my biceps, which tells me I'm not hitting the target muscle. So I like to play within these two spots. So now that we found the proper pelvis positioning to make sure that we're not arching our back excessively, and we also found out which incline works best for us, these next two steps here, we want to make sure we're doing with both the fly and the pressing movement. This is really just kind of key basics we want to do whenever we're trying to build muscle, because when we get a big stretch, which is number one, and lowering slowly against gravity, the eccentric lengthening phase, number two, both of those are key for muscle growth, whether we're training chest, back, calves, abs, anything. So when we're doing this, right, I'm going to show you both movements, the fly, dumbbell fly, as well as the incline dumbbell press. Again, I want to make sure my lower back's flat. I'm not excessively popping my chest up. I'm kind of sinking into that bench. I like using this block here to help me with that. So we're going to start with the fly. Now, a lot of times people will really arch and they'll open up and they'll feel a lot in that upper pec, but also all across through here. And that we want to make sure, again, we chill it out, focus just on the upper pec. So when we come down, I want to focus on pulling my hands apart in that fly, keeping my chest down. I'm not really trying to arch too much, and I'm opening up slow lowering. I feel that big stretch across my upper pecs, and then I'm back up. Again, I'm slow on the way down. I'm searching for that upper pec as I come down. I found it right there. I hold my stretch, and then I slide it back together. Again, I'm opening up, stretching the upper pec fibers, and then as I come up, I'm squeezing them back together. That's my fly. What I can do here with my incline press, again, I'm lowering slowly, using the muscle to handle that weight on the way down. Big stretch, and then I'm squeezing the upper pec. What I don't want to see is dropping, right? When we drop there, that muscle temporarily relaxes, but that weight that we're using is still on our body, so that's going to go to the shoulder joint, connective tissues, tendons, ligaments, all that stuff, which is not what we're trying to train. We're trying to train the muscle, so we want to make that muscle work. That eccentric, slow lowering, big stretch is not only going to help allow us to keep the tension on the muscle, but it's going to allow us to get a lot more muscle damage and inspire muscle growth. So this next one is a pretty common issue that I find with a lot of people who do flies on the incline and presses, and that's going to be ending the position where the hands are too far out in front of us. Now we are on an incline, so we want to make sure that when we lift the weights back up, both in the fly and in the press, we're lifting up upwards to the ceiling straight up. We are not having it go straight out from our body, but we want to have it straight up. And that's a pretty big issue. If you're feeling this in your shoulders, or if you're just not getting that upper pec, it's a pretty good indicator that your hands are too much in front of you at the top instead of you scooping upwards or pressing upwards towards the sky. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. So again, here's some good reps, right? I'm opening up, and then on my way up, I'm reaching back above me through there. Now, most people who do not feel their upper pecs in this will come down, and then they kind of end out here. And they feel a lot of tension in their front delt because they're basically doing a front shoulder raise. Again, we want to come open in line with that upper chest, and we want to reach up to the sky above us. We do not want to reach those hands out in front of us. Same thing with the press. We want to come down to that upper chest, and then we want to push straight back up. It might feel like you're pushing up above you, but we want to go straight up to the ceiling. We do not want to push it out away from us and have to hold it here with our front of the shoulders. So if you're feeling it in the front of the shoulder, make sure that you think about where you're ending that movement. So if you're having pain and discomfort still after doing all of this, and you've adjusted the weights and you've really worked down and you're deep stretching with barely any weight and you're still getting shoulder discomfort, you could also try limiting the range of motion to play within the range of motion that feels comfortable on your shoulder. So what we're going to do here, you can do this both for the fly and the press. And again, I don't recommend that you purposefully shorten the range of motion all the time, but it can be a useful tool if you're trying to really hone in and find where you feel that upper pec. Maybe it's all through here, and then the second you go deeper, you start feeling that shoulder. Just kind of stay out of that range, and that's usually what I'll do if my shoulders start to kind of talk to me. So what I'm going to do here is I can play around. Usually I'll kind of open up, like I feel upper chest really good there. I feel it even better there. But if I go down here, I feel it just as much, but I also feel my shoulders. So I might kind of stop right there. Now at the top, right, I feel a lot of upper pec there, and then I kind of feel them turn off at the top if I touch the weights. So I like to actually stop right there so I can keep that constant tension on that upper pec, and I'm not losing that contraction. Because again, I want to keep tension on that muscle, so I'm restricting it a little bit at the bottom. I'm not going too deep. And then at the top, I'm not relaxing up here and putting it all on my front delt. Same thing with my press. I can come down, right? If I come through here, I'm not going to get a huge stretch on my chest. I'm going to get a lot of tricep, a lot of shoulder. So I want to sink into that. I feel pretty good there. If I go a little deeper, I feel my shoulders more. So I'm going to stop out right there. And then as I come up, I'm reaching up to the sky. Now I can touch these, and these actually feel pretty good on my upper pec. But sometimes some people will feel better through here. So you just want to think about getting that stretch, finding the range of motion that feels good for you. Maybe it's here, maybe it's there. but you don't always need to touch the weights at the top in the incline dumbbell fly or the incline dumbbell press, or really any type of pressing or fly motion. You can play around with that and see what really feels good on your shoulders. So this is an exercise that it's kind of a hybrid between both the fly and the press, and it's aptly named the dumbbell fly press. Now we're gonna do it from incline. So this is something that I'll do. You wanna obviously use some lower weights than normally you would on that dumbbell press. And it's something where maybe a fly is a little aggravating on the shoulder. You can really get that nice big deep stretch without putting a lot of that stress on either the shoulder or the elbow. And again, it's really just a hybrid movement. So if we look here, we have our normal press coming down. We have our normal fly opening up. And then we have something called our fly press, where we're kind of opening up and then coming down and then pressing it and coming back together. So it might just look like a really bad incline fly form, but I'm purposefully opening up. I'm wider than I am in my press, but I'm narrower and I have more elbow bend than I do in my fly. This is just another tool that you can have in your toolbox to really try and isolate that upper pec. If you're having issues with the fly and just the press, you can do a fusion exercise. But again, all the same rules apply with finding the right pelvis structure, finding the right incline for your bench, whether it's that 15 degree all the way up maybe to 45. I wouldn't go past 45 degree. And then also making sure big stretches, playing in the range of motion that feels good on your shoulders, and then controlling that eccentric. So if you guys found this helpful, subscribe first, because I'll be having more to come. We're doing chest ones, we'll get into the glutes and the back and really rip through these. Comment below with any questions you guys have on training. And then lastly, give this one a like, share it with a friend who you think will find this helpful. I appreciate the support in building this channel. All right,